Once upon a time, in a small village on the edge of a vast forest, there lived a cheerful little girl who was loved by everyone. She always wore a bright red cloak that her grandmother had made for her, and so everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her to the kitchen. The warm smell of bread filled the room as the mother handed her a basket filled with goodies. "Take this to your grandmother," her mother said gently. "She's feeling unwell and needs these treats. Remember to stay on the path and don't talk to strangers." "I will, Mother," said Little Red Riding Hood with a smile, tying her cloak tightly. With the basket in hand, she set off toward the forest. The path through the forest was peaceful. Sunlight streamed through the leaves, creating patches of golden light on the ground. Little Red Riding Hood hummed a tune as she walked, admiring the wildflowers and listening to the birds chirping. Rabbits hopped nearby, and a deer watched her from a distance. She felt happy and safe, unaware of the eyes watching her from the shadows. From behind a tall tree, a large gray wolf emerged. His sharp eyes gleamed as he stepped onto the path. "Good morning, little girl," said the wolf, his voice smooth but sly. "Good morning," replied Little Red Riding Hood politely, though she felt slightly uneasy. "And where might you be going on such a fine day?" he asked. "To my grandmother's house," she said innocently. "It's just beyond the forest." The wolf's mind began to race with a devious plan. "Ah, how wonderful," he said. "Why don't you pick some flowers for her? She would surely love that." Delighted by the idea, Little Red Riding Hood stepped off the path to gather flowers, giving the wolf the chance to run ahead. The wolf reached the grandmother's house before Little Red Riding Hood. He knocked on the door. "Who is it?" called the grandmother. "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf, mimicking a child's voice. "Come in, dear," said the grandmother. The wolf burst in, and before the grandmother could react, he hid her in the closet and dressed in her nightgown and cap. He lay in bed, pulling the covers up to his chin, waiting for his next visitor. When Little Red Riding Hood reached the house, she noticed something strange. The door was slightly ajar. "Grandmother," she called as she stepped inside. "I'm here, my dear," came a raspy voice from the bed. Little Red Riding Hood approached the bed but stopped. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear," said the wolf. "And grandmother, what big ears you have." "All the better to hear you with, my dear. But grandmother, what big teeth you have." The wolf grinned, showing his sharp fangs. "All the better to eat you with." Before the wolf could pounce, the door burst open. A brave woodsman who had heard the commotion rushed in, wielding his axe. "Get away from her," he shouted. The wolf tried to escape, but the woodsman quickly subdued him. Little Red Riding Hood ran to the closet where she found her grandmother safe but shaken. After the wolf was gone, Little Red Riding Hood hugged her grandmother tightly. "Thank you for saving us," she said to the woodsman. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood promised to always listen to her mother's advice and never stray from the path again.